What a beautiful arm, look at that. Come on, clash of the biceps. Surely, this one or this one? Which one looks better? Hi guys, it's Ben Xiong and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about the biceps. Now this is a very popular topic. Most people want to learn about how you can grow your biceps, and we're going to delve into that today, but we will also delve into how you can get shape for your biceps. The different bicep shapes around. If you weren't familiar with this, you will through this particular video, and you understand how people have different shapes of their bicep. So really, can you sculpt your biceps to look like the bicep shape that you desire? Now we will go into that today and more. Now this will be an episode that you will not want to miss. The first group of muscles that we're going to consider in this biceps group is really the biceps brachii. Now this is the most obvious muscle when you flex and you start to see that thing that pops out. That's the biceps brachii. That's really what you guys call just the biceps. Well, the biceps brachii consists of the short head and the long head. And the thing about the biceps brachii is that it is a very strong supinator of the arm. And what I mean by supination is when your arm is held in this particular position. So when you're doing a bicep curl and you're holding the dumbbell or a barbell and you're curling it up with your palms facing towards yourself, you are predominantly activating the biceps brachii. So we understand that in order to grow or to facilitate growth for your biceps brachii, we need to be able to supinate the arms. So any movement that involves direct supination throughout the range of movement will be an excellent exercise to grow your biceps brachii. One technique that I love to use to accentuate supination is what I call an offset grip technique. Here's how it's done. This is how an offset grip works. When you're holding a dumbbell, in order to accentuate the supination of the palm, aim to hold the dumbbell towards the outside. So with a dumbbell, you can choose to hold it towards the middle, which most people do, or using an offset grip, you hold it towards the outer face of the dumbbell. Now, why do I do this? Because as I hold it towards the outer face, you realize that there is the majority of the load right there. This is where the lever is. And so what tends to happen is this part of the dumbbell, being the heavier side, will now tip in. So it's very hard to maintain supination. In order to maintain supination, you would have to rotate your wrist upwards to hold it in this position. That means you're actively working to keep it in supination. That actually stresses the biceps brachii out even more. All right, now we know that it is a supinator, but this causes it and causes it to exert more strength as it holds it in supination. So holding an offset grip, and when you're doing a bicep curl in an offset grip, this is probably how you're going to load up your biceps brachii more effectively. Okay, great movement, great technique. Utilize it in your bicep curls. Now, the second muscle in this biceps group is what is called the coracobrachialis. The coracobrachialis is a smaller muscle, and it's beneath the biceps brachii. Really, it's tucked up in here, and it originates from the scapula. Now, what is this muscle used for? It's actually used for the flexion of your arm. So when you curl your dumbbells and actually when you lift it up, there is a slight flexion. You are working your coracobrachialis. A great exercise to incorporate into your bicep workouts is the Xiong curl. I've introduced this particular exercise before, and you will see it right now. It's a great exercise because it teaches you to move your bodies in different positions to maximize tension of the dumbbell or the barbell, really, throughout the range of movement. And in this particular movement, you also see me bring my arms, flex my arms towards my head at the end of the movement, and that is where you can activate and really maximize the contraction of your coracobrachialis, which is also a muscle of your biceps group. The third muscle of the biceps group that often is being underplayed is the brachialis. In fact, most of you won't even realize that there is this particular muscle that helps to flex your arms. But the brachialis is in fact one of the most primary and the biggest muscle that helps to flex your arms. The brachialis is attached to the ulna, which is a bone in the forearm, and it is not affected by pronation or supination. Now what I mean by that is when we spoke about the biceps brachii, the biceps brachii is dominant in supinating the arms. So you have to turn your palms up in order to activate the biceps brachii. But in doing so, you are also activating the brachialis. Now when you turn your palms down, which is in pronation, like a reverse curl, all of a sudden you're not activating the biceps brachii. In fact, when you're curling this way and you're flexing your arms, you will be predominantly using your brachialis to lift the weight. So if you're looking to isolate the brachialis, then using a pronated grip on a dumbbell or a barbell is a very effective way to get your brachialis working for you. Here's how it's done if you're doing a reverse dumbbell curl. In performing a dumbbell reverse curl, one of the cues that I like to maintain is that my elbows are actually not by my side, as you can see, but actually slightly forward. And the reason why that is the case is because at the bottom position, I can still maintain tension on my brachialis. So as opposed to if my elbows are by my side, I kind of lose that tension. So I keep it slightly forward. Now, you don't want to move it too far forward because if that's the case, you're going to be stressing your shoulders more than your brachialis itself. So it's just a slight intention to move your arms forward, lock your elbows in, and curl it forward in this particular movement. You can see as I come down, though, there is still a slight angle in front of my body. All right, that's how I like to perform a reverse curl. The intention and the cue that I like to use in this is really aiming to bring my wrist to my shoulders as I let it down. Now, some people, obviously, if they're lifting too heavy, what you tend to find is that they drive their elbows backwards in order to bring it up. So you're driving your elbows. Now, that's not what you're looking for. You really want to be able to drive your wrist into your shoulders while keeping your elbows completely fixed. Okay, so you take the kind of pullback movement out of the equation and focusing just on your elbows itself. So that's how a reverse curl should be done. So we've gone through three muscles of the biceps group. We talked about the biceps brachii. We looked also at the coracobrachialis as well as the brachialis. Now these three muscles make up the biceps group. What typically you guys focus on, it's just the two heads of the biceps, it's a three muscle group. However, there is another muscle that really contributes to how the arms look. Now, we're not talking about the triceps, we're going to leave that for another video, but today we're going to focus also on this particular muscle here. So when I flex, this muscle here, from an aesthetic point of view, if let's say you're a bodybuilder or you're looking to have bigger arms, this muscle actually really plays a part in how your arms look. And this muscle is not part of the biceps group, it's actually part of the forearm muscle and is what we call the brachioradialis. And the brachioradialis is obviously being recruited effectively if you're doing any sort of neutral grip movements, whether you're gripping this way because this is how it's being activated. So the brachioradialis is another muscle that you want to add in your training regime in order to ensure your arms look complete in its development. So with all those tips that I've given you on maximizing the mass of your biceps, let's talk about the shape of your biceps right now. Is it possible to shape your biceps the way that you really want it to? And what I'm talking about is not just performing an immense number of curls with a large number of volume to grow your biceps. I'm talking about, can you actually shape it up? Now, I want to give you guys a great example down here. One of my coaches is going to step in, and we're going to give you an idea of bicep shape. Hey, Pat. Can I hop in? Okay, so we got Pat down here. You can see Pat is all nice and pumped. There's a little bit of shine, a little bit of oiled, but that's okay. He got ready for this. Now, when you look at Pat's arm, you start to see that his bicep insertions are really low. So you can see that his bicep really inserts just exactly where this is. When he curls, you can start to see there isn't much of a distance between the bicep insertion and his forearms. So just by having his arms down, Pat looks like he's got a lot of mass on his arms. Okay, so this is where the insertions are really, really low. When he flexes, you can start to see that the shape of the bicep, as opposed to certain biceps which tend to peak up, tends to be really wide. All right, so this is all based on the insertion of the arms. Now, the purpose of telling you guys this is because you cannot change the insertion of your arms. So in terms of how you want to shape your biceps, you can add mass to your biceps, but you cannot actively create a different shape to what it actually is. An example down here as well is myself. Now I've got actually insertions that go really high. So it doesn't insert where my forearms are. In fact, I could probably put 3 to 3.5 finger spacing between my bicep insertion and my forearms. Now when I contract, my biceps go a lot higher, so I'm able to produce a higher peak, but I don't have that width that Pat has. So if I'm contracting, you can see that I'm able to produce a much higher peak as opposed to the width of Pat. So this is the structure of my biceps. This is my genetics. I can train for the peak to be higher. I can train for the peak to be fuller. I can train for my arms to look fuller, but I cannot have that width that Pat has. So whether you look at individuals on social media and you're thinking this guy here has really big or thick arms and you want to train to look like that, if you don't have that insertions or the low insertions of such an individual, you will not be able to get there. All right, so in terms of training for size, very possible. Use the tips I've gave you to maximize the movement of the bicep muscles, but in terms of training for shape, you're born with it. You can always grow the shape, but you cannot change your shape. So hope this clarifies it and gives you some understanding of working with your biceps. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching today's videos. Make sure you utilize these tips to incorporate in your next arms day, get a massive bicep pump, and make sure also that you share this with someone that you know will benefit from the information here. Add your comments below, make sure you like, subscribe, and we will see you in our next YouTube video.